We were talking about your life at Plessy Roller. You had obviously resources around you. You had physical resources, you had people in other sides of the business. You also told me at one stage that you had a good library. How did that help?
Absolutely, Rodney. What you need basically is information, and you need basically things. Nothing's the same. Things move, things change, new materials, new glues come on the market. And fortunately, Plessy Roller had a library, and I was on the circulation list for electronic magazines, Wireless World, all the manufacturing magazines, acoustic magazines. And these went past your desk every day, so I'd get 5 magazines to look at. And the things of interest were tagged, and the librarian would put them in a library. They'd photostat them and put them in a folder. So there was a good lot of information about loudspeakers. Everything about cones that had ever been written was actually tagged, recorded, and stored. So one could look at this, and and this Plessy Roller been around for a long time. So there's a wealth of information there. If you go to the library and look at all these magazines and you peruse them all, you get a fairly good idea of how the industry is developed and how cones are made. And that's basically how I learned. Apart from that, also, I was attending RMIT, and RMIT have a very good library as well in terms, and I spent a lot of time at RMIT, and I spent a lot of time in the library, and also subscribed to my own magazines, such as Wireless World and Electronics Australia, and those sort of magazines. So I have my own library, and I have my own library of books here as well. But yes, I was very lucky to have a library, and if I needed something that wasn't in a library, the librarian would try to find it from another library. So very useful, and without it, I can tell you, life is difficult. It's very difficult because you feel I didn't have anybody to ask. There wasn't another speaker engineer, or I could talk to the people in engineering, but they were involved with tool making. So that was their aspect. They were not into acoustic measurement. They were not into the listening tests or paper manufacturing. There wasn't anybody there in that field at all, apart from myself. So I had to learn that myself.
You couldn't talk with your competitors, obviously. That would have been improper.
No, we didn't really talk with competitors. No, I can't remember. I went to an auction and we purchased some materials from when Magnavox were winding down their cone plant. That was about the only time I got to have a look at the competitors, because they showed me around the factory and I had a look at their cone plant. They were making seam cones, a different technology. They tried to make a felted paper cone like Plessy did, but they'd never finished that project, and that part of the plant was still unused. Unfortunately, it was sort of 3/4 of the way through. I don't know what happened to that at the end. But no, we didn't really have the opportunity to look at other people, which is rather sad, because since then I've learned that whenever I go overseas and into Asia, or I've been to America and I've been to Japan, I go to 2 things. I go to a library and I go to have a look, what do these people actually do? So I'll go to one of their universities, and I'll go into the library and I'll look at the books, and what you'll find is you go to Singapore and it's all about banking, and it's all about famous people with lots of money and how they made their money. So they're into finance. And I go, these people are not doing any electronics. They're not manufacturing. So you get an insight into what's happening. And then I try to get myself into a speaker business. So I go to a speaker. So I've been into all the speaker businesses in America. I've been to speaker businesses in Japan. Because when the tariffs were removed, the government told us that we should import rather than manufacture. And we had to, so Plessey Roller had to find a partner. And at that time, the cheap speakers were coming from Japan. And I went to Japan with the manager, Murray Smith, and we visited Pioneer, and we visited Fostex and a couple of others. And we had a look at their manufacturing facility. Quite amazing. So you do learn a lot by looking at your competitors and what they're doing.
Did you do any consulting work while you were with Plessey Roller? Did you help any other people, customers, for example?
Not really. Plessey sort of kept, we had a sales team. The sales team were the people that negotiated with the customer. And if this was a big, what can you say, something I was unhappy about was the fact that I wasn't allowed to actually go and visit customers. I don't think I only visited customers where there was an engineer at the other end. And then the salesman would bring me because the salesman would say, well, they're going to ask some questions, which we may not be able to answer. So I think Michael needs to tag along. So I was invited there. But in a lot of cases, there were like a smaller manufacturer building guitar speakers, for instance, supply a sample, and they go and they'd say, well, they didn't like the sample. And I go, well, what was wrong with it? So in the end, I would try to give them a questionnaire, like, is it too bright? Does it need more bass? Is it too middly? What's wrong with it? But the salesmen were always reluctant to come back, and verbally they'd tell me something, which was really difficult to work with. And I think we would have been a lot more successful had we been out in a business. But you've got to bear in mind, their main core business at that time was car speakers, and they didn't devote enough time to the smaller users. And I think that in the end, that can be your downfall.
So, okay, you left Roller and you started your own business. I presume it was straight after you left Roller?
Yeah, closed the company, sold off, or tried to sell the business, couldn't sell the business. So it went to auction, all the parts was sold off. And with my severance money, I bought enough. Fortunately, I had the data on which models were still making money. So I procured the parts to make those speakers from what was left over. And I said I'd start my own speaker business because I'd spent too long in the speaker game to get a job in another field. So I thought I had some expertise in speakers, and I should continue based on the data that I had, that there were some valuable models. And the last speaker I designed was the C12P, which became the third best selling speaker for Plessey Roller. And it was highly sought after. In fact, we couldn't make enough of these speakers at the time. So I thought, well, maybe I should do that. So I did. But I used up all my severance pay to buy the tools and equipment that we needed to manufacture loudspeaker, like the magnetizer, not the cone plant. We didn't have a cone plant, but I ran off enough cones for probably 2-3 years of production. And had enough bits to start in my dad's garage, actually. We got so busy in the garage that my father kicked me out and said, you need to buy a factory. We finished up buying a factory, 47 Denham Street, and we're still there.